AITA for telling my father I'll cut ties with him if he doesn't come to my wedding? Throwaway because my younger sister knows my main account. My 26F father, 59M, is a slightly known musician in my home country. Due to his career, he missed out on most of my milestones while I was growing up. School plays, a few birthdays, and both my high school and college graduations, to name a few. Mostly events he was informed of months in advance and canceled on me either weeks or days before. He always apologized for doing so, but never really seemed to feel guilty. I remember we almost had a fight because I didn't want to watch a video he had missed my high school graduation to film. It hurt me so much as a child that I stopped expecting him to show up. It still bothered me when I got older, but at that point I understood that it was his job and I should be grateful he even had one. I'm getting married in early September. My fiancée, 28M, and I have been planning this wedding for a year and a half. The date was decided and invitations were sent months ago. Almost every guest has already RSVP'd. I've reminded my father of the date several times this past year, and he kept assuring me he had blocked the entire week of the wedding and would be there. A couple days ago, my father called to inform me he had to schedule a concert for my wedding day. He apologized and said he'd make it up to me with a gift. I don't want a gift. I want my father to come to my wedding. So I told him that either he figured out a way to reschedule, which I know he could probably do if he tried, or I'd cut ties with him. What followed was one of the biggest fights we've ever had. He called me ungrateful, spoiled and selfish for giving him that kind of ultimatum and expecting him to change his work schedule for my own benefit, which he has asked me to do on many occasions before. He yelled, and I held myself not to yell back. We're still fighting over this. Most of my family is on my side, though both my mom, divorced from my dad, and my fiancé have warned me not to make any moves I might regret. My sister, 20F, is on my father's side, which doesn't surprise me. I love my father and I really don't want to stop talking to him, but I'm done with him expecting to be able to miss out on my life with no consequences. That being said, I'd be lying if I said that I don't feel guilty. Just writing this all down made me feel like a huge brat. AITA? Edit, thought I'd clarify some things. My mom and my fiancé are 100% on my side. They told me to be careful because they know I don't really want to go and see. Also, my mom has barely spoken to my father in almost 20 years and my fiancé is with me because we love each other, not because of who my father is. My father is not a struggling artist. He's been in this line of work since before I was born. I wouldn't consider him rich, but he lives more than just comfortably. If I thought he couldn't afford to reschedule a concert, I wouldn't blame him for not being able to come to the wedding. And yes, he paid child support and provided for both me and my sister. I do have other people who can walk me down the aisle. My stepdad, which would make my dad furious, so I might do it purely out of pettiness, and at least two of my best friends would be more than willing to. My father isn't paying for any part of the wedding. He offered to, but I declined. I don't live with him anymore, and both me and my fiancé have good jobs. When I was younger, I told myself that once I didn't need his money anymore, I'd never ask for it again. My sister isn't the golden child. He missed many of her milestones as well. Edit 2, I've tried acting indifferent before. It doesn't work. He interprets it as forgiveness. It's the reason why he still does this. Update. Hey guys. A lot has happened, but I'll try to keep this short. I'll start off by saying that your comments on my first post were very eye-opening. Though some of the assumptions you made were wrong, I could see where they all came from, and most of what you said was so spot on it was painful to read. Someone said that my father doesn't see me as a person, but as an extension of himself. That one hurt the most, because it's the best definition of my relationship with my father I've ever seen. My father wasn't neglectful in the traditional sense. My parents divorced when I was 7 years old, and my mom had primary custody of me and my sister, but we still went to his place several times a week. My mother is a teacher and couldn't raise us on her salary alone, so he was our main financial supporter even after the divorce. Because of all of this, he seems to believe he was the best father ever. Whenever we fought, he always insisted I was wrong and ungrateful. Those same arguments were used whenever I demonstrated I was upset over him missing out on my milestones. In his head, for instance, I couldn't get angry if he missed my high school graduation or if he didn't pay attention to any of the projects I developed in college, because he was the one paying for my education. I decided to stop complaining about this when I was younger, having realized I wouldn't be able to get him to see my side. This wedding incident felt like a turning point, though. Especially since he wasn't paying for anything this time. It made me accept that he doesn't care how much he contributed anymore, but still believes I don't have the right to be upset. I now realize there's no winning this. If he doesn't come, I'll be devastated. If he does, I'll always remember I had to force my own father to come to my wedding. At this point, I'm not even sure which is worse. A few days ago, I had a discussion with my father over the phone in which I expressed all of the above and more. And as expected, he called me dramatic, accused me of alienating myself, and berated me for talking to him the way I did. I hung up on him. This is how our fights have gone since I was a teenager, and it never solves anything. We haven't spoken since. I sent him a long text, basically saying I didn't want to hear from him until he was ready to both give me a sincere apology and own up to the status of our relationship is his fault. This is all wishful thinking. I really don't think either are going to happen. I love my father, and I know he loves me to bits. But I can't do this anymore. He's been around my entire life and still barely knows me for who I am. It's his turn to make that effort. Right now, I'm trying to muster up excitement for my wedding. I lost most of it these past weeks. My fiancé, my mom, and my friends are all trying to cheer me up, and it's starting to work. I'm definitely feeling a lot better than last week. I'm really grateful to have them in my life. So that's it for now. Thank you all for your support on my previous post. Update 2. Hey guys. This will probably be my last update. First of all, I'm happy to announce that I finally got married to the love of my life almost 2 weeks ago. For the last 6 years, this man has been my rock, my best friend and my biggest supporter, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with him. I give him, my mom and my friends, especially my awesome MOH, full credit for helping me regain my excitement for my wedding. And it was amazing. Everyone had fun, the food was great, and no one got too drunk, a constant concern of mine. Some of my friends have that tendency. I went home knowing I'd spent my wedding days surrounded by people who loved me. But my father wasn't there. After thinking very carefully about the matter and talking about it with my paternal family, all of whom were taking my side, I realized I wasn't ready to go and see. Especially since I will have to see him at least once a year for the holidays. But I legitimately don't want to invest in our relationship anymore. So for now, I'm going extremely LC. I will act civil, though probably cold, whenever I'm around him, but that's it. I'm not answering his calls or texts, he's no longer welcome at my place, and I'm no longer inviting him to anything, including my birthdays, work events, and my future children's milestones. I'm leaving the door open in case he ever wants to try to make an effort to be better, therapy, apologies, and actually caring about my accomplishments, but I'm more than ready to close it. I ended up talking to him one more time, again through the phone, a couple of weeks after my last update. I told him all of the above. And when he yelled at me, I asked him to name a single project I'd worked on in college. I had told him about 4, and explained one of them in detail several times, none of which he'd remember the next day. He couldn't. I asked him to at least loosely describe one of them. He couldn't either. I kept asking him about multiple details about my life that I clearly remembered telling him about, always at least twice. Nada. He claimed I'd never told him about any of this stuff. I said that not only had I informed him of these things frequently, we'd also had that exact conversation dozens of times before. And the outcome is always the same. He's a great father, and I'm ungrateful and dramatic. I told him I'll always love him and be grateful for the things he did for me, but I'm done. He only cares about me as his daughter and not a grown woman that exists outside of his life. He never actually cared about anything that wasn't about him. I'm done with him thinking I'm not worth the same respect that I have bent over backwards to give him my whole life. We haven't spoken since. My cousin told me her mom, his older sister, berated him on the phone a few days later. My mom has offered to do the same, but I declined. He's been trying to talk to my sister about it, but I told her to stay out of it. Things have been getting a bit better between me and her. I considered having my stepfather walk me down the aisle, but he remembered me saying I never wanted my dad to give me away in the first place, so he encouraged me to do things my way. I ended up walking alone to a string version of Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. About halfway through, my 3-year-old goddaughter came up to me and grabbed my hand, and we walked the rest of the way together. It was perfect. And so much better than anything I could have planned. My father texted me during the wedding, probably to ask for pictures. I didn't reply. For now, I feel numb. There is very little about the situation that didn't break my heart, and I'm not exactly happy about the outcome. Most of the time, I'm too sad to think about the silver linings, but too exhausted to actually feel sad. That being said, I'm also ecstatic. I never thought I'd be as happy about my wedding as I am. We also just got back from our honeymoon, so it's been easier to focus on the good times. Also, some people have PM'd me asking who my father is, or even speculating about it. Please don't. This is still my family. In spite of everything, he is still my father and I love him. I came here for advice, not revenge or sabotage. I wouldn't have created a throwaway if I didn't want to be kept anonymous. That's all, folks. Thank you for all your kind words and advice. My mom has fallen for a romance scam. How do I convince her? My mom made a profile on our time in the summer of 2019. My dad passed away in April of 2019, so she was innocently looking for some companionship, nothing serious. Fast forward to today and she has been in an online relationship with a man for nearly 5 months, and it wasn't until today that my sister and I became absolutely convinced that he is a scammer. This guy claims he is an architect doing consulting work in Malaysia, but his home base is Houston, Texas, where my mom lives. He always tells her he will be on his way back to the States, but last minute ends up not being able to come back. She claims he has never asked her for money, but he had her log into his bank account and transfer funds to another account for him. He claims he couldn't access his account because he is in Malaysia. She just told my sister and I this today and said it so casually, and I just absolutely had it and told her she had to stop talking to him immediately. She doesn't seem to think it's odd that he gave a stranger on the internet his bank account information. My sister looked up his phone number on Spokeo and it wasn't registered to his name and was also listed as a landline. This still didn't convince my mom that she's being played. Also, she says they have FaceTimed before and he matches the pictures he has sent her. Has anyone ever heard of a similar situation? I've read many posts about women sending thousands of dollars to scammers, but none of a scammer actually having them log into their account to transfer money. It seems like he could be getting my mom involved in some illegal activity. We have been trying all day to come up with some kind of hard evidence that this guy is not legit, but haven't had any luck. Any advice is appreciated. Major update: I just so happened to contact a Facebook group that exposes scammers, and they just got back to me with hard evidence that the man my mom has been talking to is 100% a scammer. They gave me the name of the man whose photos he was using and verified the phone number he is using is a free voicemail number. I truly appreciate everyone's input here and hope my mom is okay after all of this. Update number 2. Just got off the phone with my sister and my mom and we found out she has sent this guy her entire savings account over the course of 3 months. I am absolutely sick to my stomach and did not think this was going to be the outcome. Any advice here is appreciated. I'm at a loss for words. I had hoped that it hadn't gotten to this point yet, but was sadly wrong. I feel angry and guilty that I even allowed her to talk to him for this long. It turns out he wasn't having he transfer money between accounts. I'm not sure why she told us that. He gave her a story that he has a heart condition and even had a doctor call her to convince her to send more and more money. The bank account he gave her was completely fake and just a way to show her he would pay her back. I'm just sick. Final update. Hi all. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who commented here and messaged me with thoughts, advice, and empathy. I've learned more about what this scammer said to my mom to convince her to send him money, and while I still can't believe she didn't realize this was a complete scam, all we can do is accept it and help her move forward. I learned that the bank account he had her logged into was actually just a domain purchased by someone which expires in March. I have the full banking details of the accounts she wired to and my sister, and I have been trying to do some digging on our own even though we know it's likely a dead end. If anyone is curious, they had her wired to bank accounts held under LLCs. This way, it looked like she was paying for a service rather than sending money to an individual. I've reported the scam to the FBI, left another tip to the FBI about the suspected money laundering going on with these bank accounts, the FTC, and I also filed a money laundering report with ICE in hopes that something helps them track these scammers at some point in time. I'm working on reporting it to local police as well. I truly hope that this post ends up helping other people out there who may find themselves or their parent in the same situation. No stranger on the internet should ever ask you for money. No matter what excuses they give you or threats they make, do not send them your money. This has been absolutely devastating not only to my mom but also to my sister, my husband, and my sister's husband. I said it many times in the comments, but I feel like I failed my mom and have a great deal of guilt over this. It's going to be a long road to fully moving past this, but luckily we have support all around us. All the best to everyone.